theater lobby smelled of old velvet and new money. I stood near the coat check, holding a ticket I had bought with my last $60. On the wall, a giant poster showed my daughter's face. Her smile was wide, her hair was perfect, her name was in gold letters. Sold out. 4 nights. I had not been invited to any of them. I bought my own ticket like a stranger. The usher took my stub and pointed to a seat in the back row. Row M, seat 12. Behind a pillar. I sat down and watched the curtain rise. My daughter walked on stage. The crowd roared. She took a bow and said, "Good evening, Los Angeles. I am so grateful to all of you. You are my real family." The lights dimmed. The music started. And I sat behind that pillar and realized that I had given 26 years of my life to a girl who now introduced herself as an orphan. My name is Susan. I am 54 years old. I grew up in a small apartment above a laundromat in Queens, New York. My mother worked the night shift at a hospital. My father left when I was 3. I do not remember his face. I remember his absence like a missing tooth. I had one daughter. Her name is Chloe. She was born on a hot July morning. The nurse said she had strong lungs. That was an understatement. Chloe cried like she was angry at the world for keeping her waiting. I held her and promised I would never leave. I kept that promise. It cost me everything. Chloe was different from other kids. She talked early. She read early. But her gift was performance. At 4, she put on shows in our living room. She would wrap herself in my curtains and sing into a hairbrush. The neighbors would knock on the wall. Not to complain. To ask for an encore. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. Days at a dental office answering phones. Nights at a diner serving coffee to tired truckers. I came home at midnight, made Chloe's lunch for the next day, and slept for 4 hours before doing it all again. I was exhausted, but I was happy. Because Chloe was happy. When she was 8, her school put on a play. She got the lead. A small part in a small production, but she shone like a diamond in a pile of gravel. The drama teacher, a kind woman named Mrs. Alvarez, pulled me aside after the show. She said, "Chloe has real talent, real. You need to get her into classes." I asked how much. She told me. I did not eat dinner for 6 months to pay for those classes. Chloe never knew. I made sure of that. At 12, she started auditioning for professional children's theater. She got small roles. A background singer. A child who cries in one scene. A fairy with one line. I drove her to every audition in my 2002 Honda. The car had no air conditioning and a radio that only played static. We sang anyway. We made up songs about the traffic and the weather and the man who sold hot dogs on the corner. Those car rides were the best part of my life. At 15, she got an agent. A real agent. A man named Barry who wore expensive sunglasses and talked very fast. He said Chloe could be a star. A real one. But she needed headshots. Professional ones. $400. I sold my wedding ring. The one my mother gave me. I never married. The ring was just a promise I made to myself that I would always belong to someone. I sold that promise for $400 and a girl who would later tell a reporter she raised herself. The trigger came when Chloe was 21. She had just landed her first big role. A supporting part in an off-Broadway play. Not a star yet, but close. The opening night was everything. Red carpet. Photographers. Party afterwards with champagne and tiny sandwiches. Chloe invited me. She said, "Mom, this is your night too." I wore my best dress. A blue one I had bought at a thrift store and altered myself. I took the bus into Manhattan. I was so proud, I thought my chest would burst. I arrived at the theater early. I waited near the stage door. Chloe came out for a smoke break with her castmates. She saw me. Her face changed. She walked over quickly and spoke in a low voice. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I said, "You invited me." She looked around. Her castmates were watching. She said, "I know, but I didn't think you'd actually come." I said, "Why not?" She sighed. "Because this is my work, Mom. My professional life. You don't fit here." I did not fit here. I stood in my thrift store dress with my bus pass in my pocket and my hands rough from dish soap. She was right. I did not fit. But she had made me this way. I had given her every dollar, every hour, every dream. And now I was a problem to be managed. She walked me to the back row. The same back row I would sit in years later. She said, "Stay here. Don't talk to anyone. Don't tell anyone you're my mother. Just watch the show and go home." I said okay, because I did not know how to say anything else. The play was beautiful. Chloe was beautiful. After the show, I waited by the stage door. She came out surrounded by people. A man with a camera. A woman with a clipboard. A young actor who put his arm around her waist. Chloe saw me. She looked away. She walked past me like I was a piece of scenery. I took the bus home. I did not cry on the bus. I waited until I was in my apartment. Then I cried into a pillow so the neighbors would not hear. That was the first time I understood that my daughter was not ashamed of me. She was hiding me. And there is a difference. The pressure came slowly at first. Then all at once. First, Chloe stopped calling me Mom. She called me Susan. She said it was more professional. She said if she accidentally called me Mom in front of the wrong person, it could hurt her image. I asked what image. She said a young actress needs to be mysterious. Mother makes her less mysterious. I did not understand. But I agreed. Because I always agreed. Second, she stopped visiting. She moved from her shared apartment in Brooklyn to a place in Manhattan. Then to Los Angeles. Each move took her further away. I saw her twice in 5 years. Once at a coffee shop near Times Square, where she spent the whole time on her phone. Once at a restaurant, where she made me pay for my own meal, even though she had just signed a deal with a streaming service. Third, the interview started. Chloe gave a podcast interview where she said she grew up in foster care. Foster care. I had never let anyone else raise her for a single day. I read the transcript 3 times. Then I called her. She did not answer. I left a voicemail. "Chloe, I read what you said about foster care. That isn't true. You know that isn't true." She texted back 2 hours later. "It's called a backstory, Mom. Every actor has one. Stop being dramatic. Stop being dramatic." I had cleaned toilets for her. I had skipped meals for her. I had sold my mother's ring for her. And she called me dramatic. Fourth, she got engaged. A wealthy producer named Marcus. He was 15 years older than her and had 2 ex-wives. Chloe called me to tell me the news. She said, "Mom, I'm getting married." I said, "That's wonderful." She said, "There's something else. Marcus's family is very traditional. They don't know about you." I said, "What do you mean they don't know about me?" She said, "I told them my parents died when I was young. It was easier that way." I said, "Easier for who?" She said, "For everyone. Please, Mom, just play along. It's one day, one day." I had given her 26 years, and she was asking me to erase myself for one day. I said no. For the first time in her life, I said no. I will not pretend to be dead so you can impress your boyfriend's family. She got quiet. Then she said fine. Then she hung up. I was not invited to the wedding. I watched the photos on Instagram. White dress. Beach sunset. 100 guests. No mother. The discovery came from a stranger. A woman named Jenna, who worked as a production assistant on Chloe's first movie. Jenna found me through a genealogy website. She sent me a message that said, "Are you Chloe's mother?" I said yes. She said, "I thought so. You have her eyes." Then Jenna told me something that broke me open. Chloe had been telling people in Hollywood that she was adopted. That her adoptive parents had abandoned her at a shelter when she was a teenager. That she had survived on her own. That every success was a victory over a childhood of neglect. She had built an entire origin story. A tragic one. Inspiring. A kind of story that wins awards and gets magazine covers. And in that story, I did not exist. Not as a villain. Not as a hero. As nothing. Jenna sent me screenshots. Chloe's private social media, where she posted about her difficult past. Video where she cried on a podcast about being unwanted. A fundraiser she had done for foster kids, where she said, "I know their pain because I lived it." I closed my laptop. I walked to my kitchen. I opened the freezer. Inside was a frozen lasagna Chloe had given me 3 years ago for my birthday. She had forgotten to take it out of the freezer. I had kept it, like a souvenir. I threw it in the trash. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to Chloe. To myself. I wrote every sacrifice you made was a brick in a wall she used to hide you. I wrote she is not your daughter anymore. She is a character she plays for applause. And you are not in her script. I sealed the letter in an envelope. I put it in a drawer. Then I opened a new drawer and put something else inside. A small notebook. On the first page, I wrote the truth. And I began to write. I did not call a lawyer. I did not call a reporter. I did not call Chloe. I had learned that public fights only make the other person more famous. So I made a quiet plan. A plan that would take 18 months. A plan that would not make me rich, but would make me whole. First, I started writing everything down. Every memory. Every receipt. Every bus ticket. Every late night. Every early morning. I filled 3 notebooks. Not for revenge. For proof. Proof that I existed. Proof that I worked. Proof that Chloe did not raise herself. Second, I opened a storage unit. A small one. $10 a month. I put everything in it. Chloe's baby shoes. Her first school drawing. Her second grade report card that said Chloe is a joy to have in class. The program from her first play. The headshots I paid for with my mother's ring. Every piece of evidence that said I was there. I was always there. Third, I found a therapist. A patient woman named Dr. Reyes, who let me cry in her office without telling me to stop. She asked me one question that changed everything. What do you want from Chloe? I thought for a long time. Then I said, I want her to say my name out loud. Just once. In public. Without being ashamed, Dr. Reyes nodded. That is not revenge, she said. That is dignity. Fourth, I stopped waiting. I stopped checking her Instagram. I stopped watching her interviews. I stopped hoping she would call. I filled my life with other things. A book club. A walking group. Volunteer shift at a local animal shelter. Small things. Quiet things. Things that were mine. I did not tell Chloe any of this. I did not send her the notebooks. I did not threaten to go public. I just waited. Because I knew something she did not know. The truth does not need a lawyer. It just needs time. The confrontation did not come from me. It came from a reporter. Chloe was nominated for a major award. Best Supporting Actress. The ceremony was in New York. Every major outlet was covering it. A journalist from a respected magazine was doing a profile on her. The journalist's name was Mark. He was young and curious and did not believe everything he was told. Mark found me through Jenna. He called me on a Tuesday afternoon. He asked if I was Chloe's mother. I said yes. He asked if I would be willing to talk. I said about what? He said about the discrepancy between Chloe's public story and the truth. I did not answer right away. I thought about Dr. Reyes. I thought about the notebooks. I thought about the storage unit and the baby shoes and the bus tickets. Then I said yes. Not for revenge. For the record. I met Mark at a diner in Queens. The same diner where I had worked for 12 years. I showed him the notebooks, the receipts, the photographs, the report cards, the headshots. I told him everything. The 2 jobs, the skipped meals, the sold ring, the bus rides, the back row seats, the wedding I was not invited to, the podcast where she said she was a foster child. Mark listened. He took notes. He did not interrupt. When I was done, he said thank you. Then he said, I will verify everything before I publish. I said please do. 6 months later, the article came out. It was long. It was careful. It was devastating. It did not attack Chloe. It just told the truth. Her real name. Her real childhood. Her real mother. The woman who worked 2 jobs and sold her ring and drove a broken car to every audition. The woman who was still alive. Still in Queens. Still waiting. The article went viral. Not because it was cruel, because it was quiet. And sometimes, quiet truths are louder than screams. Chloe called me the night the article came out. She was crying. She said, "Mom, how could you?" I said I didn't do anything. A reporter asked me questions. I answered them honestly. She said, "You ruined me." I said, "No, Chloe. You ruined yourself. I just stopped lying for you." She hung up. She did not call back for 3 months. Chloe did not lose her career. She lost some fans. She gained some others. She issued a public statement. It said I made mistakes. I was young and scared and ashamed of where I came from. I am sorry. I am working to be better. She did not mention me by name, but she did not deny me either. That was enough, for now. We have a relationship now. It is fragile. It is careful. She calls once a month. She visited me last Christmas. She brought a plant. She hugged me at the door. She said, "I'm sorry, Mom." I said, "I know." We did not talk about the article. We did not talk about the foster care lie. We just ate dinner. She did the dishes. It was small. It was ordinary. It was everything. I still have the notebooks. I still have the storage unit. I still have the baby shoes and the report cards and the headshots. But I do not keep them as weapons. I keep them as witnesses. They are proof that I was there. Even when she tried to erase me. Even when she looked at me like a stranger. Even when she sat me in the back row behind a pillar. I am not angry anymore. I am tired. But it is a good tired. Like after a long walk. You have arrived somewhere. It is not where you plan to go. But it is yours. The lesson I learned is simple. You can give someone everything. Your time. Your money. Your youth. Your ring. They can take it all and call themselves self-made. But the truth does not disappear. It waits. And one day it will find a voice. It does not have to be loud. It just has to be honest. I am that voice now. Not for revenge. For every mother sitting in a back row behind a pillar. You see me. I see you. We are not invisible. We are just waiting for the world to catch up. If you have ever been erased by someone, you built hit like and subscribe. This channel shares real-life stories about family secrets and quiet comebacks. No screaming. No fake endings. Just the truth. Share this with someone who needs to know they are not alone.